This is a classic vertical merger, and it eliminates no competitor from any market. In fact, it increases competition, particularly against the cable companies.
Great content is not enough. You need to deliver great consumer experiences, and that's what joining with AT&T will allow us to do.
All right, so the respective heads of AT&T and Time Warner are saying their merger makes perfect sense for the consumer as well, but it's an $85 billion transaction that a lot of them on that committee doing a lot of the questioning are not quite convinced of, including a guy not there today but did raise it a lot on the campaign stump, Donald Trump. Do you remember this?
As an example of the power structure I'm fighting, AT&T is buying Time Warner and thus CNN, a deal we will not approve in my administration because it's too much concentration of power in the hands of too few.
So former FCC Commissioner Robert McDowell, is he right about that, Robert? Too much concentration of power in the hands of just a few?
Probably not, and here's the deal. As your clip just showed, it is a vertical merger. You're not buying a competitor, and there are at least two giants in the cable space that have vertical integration. So Comcast, with its purchase of NBC Universal, and I was an FCC commissioner when that was approved, and I looked heavily into that, as well
and you were
as
okay
Charter.
With that one?
And I voted to approve it.
Okay.
And so, as well as Charter, Charter with its affiliation with Liberty and John Malone or all the content that they own. So we've seen a growing trend, really a demand by consumers to have a marriage between connectivity or distribution and content. And so if you're going to have a nationwide, counterbalance to large cable companies that are vertically integrated, this makes a lot of sense. So I think actually this is more pro-competition than anti-competition. Merely the big getting bigger, as the president-elect has said earlier in the campaign, is really not a legal basis to go to court to try to block a vertical deal. That's just not going to work in court.
What if they were already big? In the case of AT&T with the DirecTV purchase, it has a history of scooping up everything along its path, and that this is sort of like the coup de grace here, and you got to stop them because they're becoming a monster. You say what?
Yeah, so there's a lot of competition in wireless. Look, the eyeballs and the ad dollars are going to wireless and content and apps that people look at on wireless devices. And that's just what every consumer trend tells us. There's a lot of cord cutting, we call it, or cord shaving. Right. And so that's where the competition is. You have four nationwide big carriers in the wireless space with others, and the average American consumer has a choice of 5 wireless carriers. So when you see that integration between mobility and content, it's actually something that is good for consumers. There are antitrust and consumer protection laws in place that will protect consumers if there should be anti-competitive conduct. But look, at the heart of this is a question of whether or not AT&T would discriminate in favor of its own content. First of all, there are laws that already exist that would prevent that or punish that. But secondly, that would be just a bad business decision. People could fire AT&T because they're not getting, let's say, ESPN or something else, or let's say Fox Business, on their platform as easily as they can.
Well, they could get us, but they might put us on channel 1 million, right? I mean,
that's true, right?
Yeah.
So, and consumers can then vote with their feet and go elsewhere. And so it's still a competitive marketplace. You can fire a bad market actor.
Yeah. Still. Let me ask you about this, and it might be a simplistic question, but you're always very patient with such questions.
I'm a simplistic guy.
Hardly. The notion that there's a difference when there's a new administration, that whether it's justice or the FCC acting independently, that there's a different tone. Supposedly, much more freewheeling under Republicans, less so under Democrats. Is there any truth to that?
Sure, there's different flavors, different accentuations, different things that are emphasized in each administration. But if, most Republican administrations are sort of law and order, they follow legal precedent. And in this case, I've been in this business over 26 years. I can't think of when a vertical deal has been struck down. So DOJ's only remedy is to go to sue in court to block the deal. And then all of a sudden you've got legal precedent. You've got the jurisprudence of antitrust of over 100 years of that.
But Robert,
that's a
what
very
if it's
weak
the
case.
president himself, in this case the president-elect, in this case before he was the president-elect, repeatedly saying, I think this deal is a lousy deal, or I don't like the tone of this one, or the makeup or the breakdown of this one. He's just speaking out loud. He's using the bully pulpit. I don't know if he can go to justice or if he can, bang his hands on a table and walk into an FCC meeting, but What is the power persuasion from someone who can't reverse a deal on his own?
Sure. So actually, he can go to justice. That's part of the executive branch, of which he is the head, or will be the head.
But
on
isn't he
January
supposed
20th.
to separate himself on these type of instances?
You know, you would hope, and let the career sort of lawyers and economists and engineers and all the rest, and the experts, the substantive experts, be they career or political appointees, do their job. FCC is supposed to be an independent agency, to have sort of the same independence as the judiciary. And so let's hope that gets restored in this upcoming administration. But at DOJ, you know, he still has to try to block it in court, so then it becomes up to a judge. And then that judge would have a lot of discretion, and it can go through the appellate process if necessary. But again, his personal desire can't overturn 100 years of precedent about vertical deals. So there's a lot to this. And also, there may be, what's at the heart of this, his dislike for CNN. And, you know,
you read my mind on that one, because that's what I was thinking was maybe the galvanizing factor.
I'm just guessing here.
Yeah.
But so changing hands, you know, I'm trying to figure out the logic of, so keep it in the same ownership hands? Does changing hands make CNN worse from his perspective? So that's maybe at the crux of the matter, and we'll see what happens with all that.
Because I have been trying to check with AT&T people if this merger went through, where would Fox business fall? And they assure me you'll be just below 1 million, channel 1 million. All right. Very interesting stuff. Robert McDowell, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you again.
Thank you. Good seeing you. Thank you.